Okay.
Okay, thank you. This is a meeting of the Mobile City Council Finance Committee. This meeting has been called to consider adopting an ordinance regulating food trucks within the city of Mobile. And on this meeting, we have myself, Chairman of the Finance Committee, and Councilman Williams and Councilman Richardson, who are both also members of the Finance Committee. We have councilpersons Rich, Small, and Gregory. And I see I think we have Ms. Kessler from the legal department, Ms. Sapp from the finance department, we have the city clerk on, and various other individuals. So we'll go ahead and get started. I had intended to take the latest draft that we had received from Mr. Arledge, which included changes recommended by the administration, and just go through it, maybe section by section, and see if there are any, if anybody has any heartburn with any of it. And the first paragraph just makes a few ministerial changes to it. Does anyone have any problem with section 1, definitions?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll move to section 2, which is locations. And this section has been altered to address some concerns that some of the folks had. It says that food trucks may operate in parking spaces within the public right-of-way on city-owned property at locations and times as may be approved by the city department in primary control of such property, and in such other areas as may be permitted by the city's zoning ordinance, provided that food trucks may not operate on the public right-of-way within 50 feet of the primary entrance of any type of restaurant. Which that distance requirement was shortened as a result of some feedback we had received. And then a new provision, which was inserted, I think, again, as a result of some comment by members of the council, says the city parks and recreation department is authorized to develop guidelines for the operation of food trucks in city parks and may charge a license fee of up to $150 for an annual license, $50 for a quarterly license, and $25 for a daily license. And we also received what I understand from Colonel DeLapp, let me get over here, that is a draft of the Mobile Parks and Recreation Department food truck guidelines. We would not, by adopting the ordinance, we don't adopt these guidelines. That would be an administrative procedure, but I appreciate the administration sending us what they're thinking of. So the question I would have, I'll start out with the members of the committee, is whether there are any comment on that section 2.
None.
Mr. Richardson?
No.
Any other council member? I don't think we have any members of the public, but anybody else on this call, anybody else on the Zoom have any comment on that section 2?
Councilman Daves, this is Flo Kessler.
Yes, Ms. Kessler.
Okay, so I don't know if Chris wants to talk to you about this. First off, let me say that I submitted that draft policy from the Parks Department that they had prepared just for informational purposes, that the council would get an idea of how they were thinking about regulating food trucks, and I think it served its purpose. But I just wanted to confirm what Jim DeLapp said, that wasn't final. And then on the fees and on this section generally, we had I proposed moving this last sentence to section 3, a new paragraph, T as in Tom. But as I said, I don't want to steal Chris's thunder if he's going to go over that with you.
Are we dealing with section 2?
Yeah, we're still in section 2, and Mrs. Kessler is suggesting that the part having to do with the fees be moved to section 3, subsection T. Mr. Arledge, do you have any objection to that?
No, I spoke to Ms. Kessler about that this morning. That's fine. And it would, make more sense to do it that way. The only question was, since the park rules and whatnot are sort of in draft form, they didn't want to be, they wanted a little bit more flexibility on what fees they might charge for different things. So what we talked about was asking y'all for guidance on maybe an annual max, and then that way they could work down from there for daily, monthly, quarterly, or whatever. What do y'all think about that?
I have a question. I'm not a committee member, so I don't want to go out of order, but is it okay?
Yeah, but is your question directed
Yes.
toward your question directed towards the question posed by Mr. Arledge?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But I think it needs the parks people. The part about the annual license, I'm a little confused about that because I thought that people have to get permission to bring the truck in. So how could get an idea? I understand if like an ice cream truck that might be in every weekend would want an annual as opposed to the $25 for one visit. But was there going to be some kind of standards on what would automatically kick in the need for a year-round type annual license that the Parks Department would still keep up with?
So, Ms. Rich, this is Flo. I'm happy to answer that question if Shonda's not on the call. I don't
Okay.
think is she?
No.
Lisa?
I don't believe she is, Flo.
I don't
Okay.
see her name.
So
Okay.
yes, and that's what, I think you've kind of hit on some of the issues that the Parks Department was going to work out. Their intention, as you can tell from part of the policy, is to restrict certain areas, like they don't want food trucks to compete with booster clubs that make their money by running a concession stand for certain games and things like that. So
Right.
they're gonna work out a system, where they'll identify which parks and when, but I don't think that has all been worked out exactly. But at least it hasn't to my knowledge. But your general point is correct, that the what they have in mind is that certain trucks will be there all the time and they'll get an annual license, and
Sure.
then work it out daily and quarterly like that.
So Flo, what I heard Chris say is maybe put some kind of annual limit on the periodic fees that are charged. So it might say that the department can charge license fees of up to $150 a year in the aggregate, or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that is what we discussed. That allows the Parks Department some flexibility if it turns out that the daily, quarterly, and annual categories don't work that well. Once they start implementing the policy, then they could adjust it. But I think Chris's point, and was that the council should be setting some maximum annual fee so that there's a limit, that the Parks Department doesn't have unfettered discretion to set whatever fee that it wants to. But that the council would hopefully be comfortable with allowing the Parks Department that discretion to set different quarterly, daily, and fees on that basis.
Well, they don't issue licenses. This would be more of just a simple usage fee, because this could get, the language could be confused with a business license. which is a whole nother subject altogether. We address that there. They have to have a business license. But they must comply with all Parks and Recreation policies. And do we have to limit that number? Why have to limit? It would be arbitrary.
First, let me say that I completely agree with you that this is separate from the license fee, which is
Right.
already listed on the schedule. And if you think we need extra language to clarify that this is separate from and in addition to the license fee, that, you know, that we can certainly add that. And the general, in order to make sure that the food trucks comply with the Parks Department regulations, Chris and I worked on the penalty section so that there's going to be a ticket, an MOT, that the Parks Department enforcement officers can write to any food truck that you know leaves garbage or does something that's not compliant with regulations, and that'll be a set fine. And I think we left it blank for the council to decide how much of a fine you would want that to be.
Why don't we change this so it says the City Parks and Recreation Department is authorized to develop guidelines for the operation of food trucks in city parks and may charge reasonable usage fees for the operation of food trucks in city parks.
Yep, put it down at K or wherever. Yep.
Instead of the license fee, in other words. 'Cause
Right.
that is
And
confusing.
we just say this, we just say the fees, the usage fees have to be reasonable.
Or
and
permitting fees.
Administration determine that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The new
Yes.
language.
If someone thinks they're unreasonable, we'll hear about it.
And go ahead. And this
Agree.
goes, yeah, this goes to the Parks and Rec document that we got on the licensing fees. When they were talking about a one-time use, I just started thinking about if someone is holding an event at a park and they bring in a caterer, what's the difference between having a caterer set up on property and having a food truck come in and set up on property for said event, and then they all go away?
I think that the caterer would be considered there for the benefit of whomever hires the caterer. So they wouldn't be selling to the public at large.
But they would be, but the event people would be paying the caterer to be there for the event. So basically, somebody's still getting paid one way or the other.
Joe,
Wait, hold on. Let's answer.
I hear where
Gina.
you're going, Gina.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is.
Well, I think the
If I have an
difference
event-
is,
Well, I mean, if I have an event out at Langen Park and I invite a food truck to come in and do food, and either I pay for the food from the food truck or the people who were at the event pay for the food from the
Right.
food truck. Either way, the food truck people are going to get paid, as would a caterer that I invite to come in and set up and cook. One way or the other, they're going to get paid. So I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is between the two.
Joe,
As far as the rules.
Yeah, there's a lot of neighborhoods that have events and they'll invite a food truck in. And it will be a neighborhood association event, like at Christmas or Halloween, whatever they're doing. And then they will contract with a truck and get some of the proceeds, the HOA for dealing with them. But the point is that truck is on a city street for
Sure.
a length of time. So is that something they'll have to go through to get a permit, or just
so we're just talking
the
about
license
park.
will take care
We're
of
just talking
that?
about, we're just talking about
Sentence
park.
right now. Stick with that.
Joe,
about
can we,
Well, this is on a city
Can we
street
stick with
and
what we-
it happens a
what
lot.
we
You'd be
did-
surprised.
No, but
we're dealing with
whoa,
food trucks.
whoa. We're not talking about city streets. We're talking about parks.
Okay.
But we were dealing
Right.
with food trucks. What is the title of the ordinance?
It's about food trucks.
Food
Food
trucks.
truck.
We're not dealing with catering. We're not dealing with ice cream. We're dealing with food trucks. Can we stay with food trucks and on a later date, we'll deal with the
Or
other
food trucks.
No.
food trucks is what we're dealing with, Joe.
And so
Gene,
You're the main one for that, sticking to the, you're the number one for sticking to what's on the agenda.
I agree.
Get that, but I could foresee somebody who has a catering business and they pull up with
Me
their
too,
wagon and
but
their
it's not up
cooker
here.
on site, on a park, and they're not gonna have to pay anything to be there.
I
Somebody
agree,
comes
but
And an official food truck's gonna come up and they're gonna have to pay.
Mhm.
So,
when we get a complaint, we'll deal with it.
well, it's always the devil in the detail. So that's just something that kind of struck me as could be a conflict.
Could be, but it's not what we're
Yeah,
dealing with.
I hear what you're saying, but if we go in here and parse every single thing and say, what if,
Right,
what if,
Yeah.
what we got to do is come up with the best ordinance we can come up with. Understand if problems arise, we can deal with it later on.
Okay, you're cutting in and out, Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lost you.
He'll come back in. But we're gonna rephrase what you said in your words and make that section 3 sub-paragraph or whatever, T.
This
Yes.
is the proposed language for T. If operating in a city park, obtain a permit, follow park rules, regulations, and policies, and pay a permit fee on an annual, quarterly, or daily basis to be set by the Parks Department in amount not to exceed blank dollars per year. If y'all want to change that to, reasonable amount, that's fine, but y'all set, pretty much most of the other types of permit fees in the city.
We set the fees.
So I felt like, that was my thinking, and it can be not to exceed, whatever.
If
Well,
we
they
don't,
came
per
up
year.
with
You gotta think of
150.
it as 365 days,
Jordan, if we don't
offered
set
the
the fee, it's
150?
gonna
Was
be
it Parks?
arbitrary and capricious if we don't set the fee. It's gonna be arbitrary and capricious.
Wait,
Wait,
who set
Beth,
the 150? Whose suggestion was that?
That came from the Parks Department.
Well, maybe they know what the scope is in this. So they set a price that they thought was reason, and I think we should go with it.
I'm not against it.
I mean, they came up with it.
It's not gonna break the
So-
bank.
Can always be
maximum
amended.
annual aggregate fee of $150.
I'm not against it.
It was their suggestion.
I think Joel is out. He's back.
Joel needs to go off Wi-Fi. Go on to data, baby. Go to data.
I can get Wi-Fi at City Hall.
What is this?
Okay, are we okay? Have we beaten that one to
Yeah.
death and we now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go to section 3. In addition to any and all other ordinance, laws, rules, and regulations, food trucks shall display a valid city of Mobile business license. If operating on a public right-of-way or city property, contain food preparation within the food truck, not obstruct traffic. 20 feet from any intersection. Let's see, if you're operating on a public right of way, you can't distribute food and beverage.
In traffic. That's what that says.
Yeah.
You have to be by the curb, but not in traffic.
Utilize no more than 2 parking spaces. Not utilize city utility connections. Continuously contain and police waste and refuse. Provide a trash receptacle for use by customers. If operating on the public right of way, not be left overnight or unattended. Only operate on public rights of way between hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. Provided, however, that food trucks may operate within the downtown development district during the same hours bars and restaurants may operate within that area.
On private property.
It's on public property. It says,
We're not regulating private property.
we're not regulating private property.
we're regulating food trucks. We're telling them what they can do.
Not if they're on private property.
But
We
I
tell
think in
everybody what to do,
Elizabeth's,
private or public.
Nope.
yeah, but I
Nope.
think in Elizabeth's comments, she mentioned that sometimes there may be a need to go later than, I think it's at 10 o'clock or something for an event
Wait.
that a food truck would be there for.
We said downtown, if we're not holding them to
It says the food trucks may operate within the downtown development district during the same hours bars and restaurants may operate within that area.
Right.
Okay, well, she probably just wasn't seeing that thing, because I think that was her problem, was that some of the events last longer than, time.
Okay.
That's good.
Service, replenish the food truck on a daily basis. Not leave any location without first picking up and removing and disposing of all waste and refuse. Not solicit or conduct business with occupants of a motor vehicle. Not create sound or permit sound to, this is if you have blaring music or something like that.
Mhm.
Not burn wood or charcoal or produce smoke. Provide exterior lighting. Not operate generators with a total sound level that exceeds 65 dBA. I think Elizabeth had said 64, but I'm not going to quibble over 1 dBA.
Joel, I think we need to add, that if you don't abide by all the above, it could result in the revocation of your license.
Well, that would be in penalty. That would be in section 4, penalty. So let's stick to 3. Any other questions or concerns with respect to 3?
Do we need to say that their health license needs to be visible to the general public?
The,
Yes,
Well, it's not on
yeah.
there.
I
That's a
wanna
good idea.
know-
I think that's
I
a
want to know that.
health law.
It is, but I don't know if they could
The
have it in a
license we're
drawer,
saying.
but do we want our, citizens to be able to see it? Like framed so, or it's
The
seen?
city license and the health license ought to be visible. Both of them.
I think that's a fair thing.
Okay. You get that, Chris? City and health license visible to patrons.
What about on item A, display a valid business license and any health license required by applicable law?
certificate of public health. That's-
Excellent.
That works. That
Any
works.
other things any other items with respect to section 3, Mr. Williams?
I'm gonna be a little bit nitpicky, but I will tell you, when I start reading, I'm getting mixed up between what I can and can't do. And I know it's gonna cause some, just some shuffling, not changing words at all, but put all the do's and do nots together. Just so that it's clear, this is what you will do and this is what you will.
Chris can do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, John.
I like it. Let Chris do it.
And maybe Chris, if you can, put some of these things, the public rights of way do's and don'ts are mixed up. If you could kind of put them together too.
Are you with us,
So
Chris?
that's 4 different categories.
Well, I don't think you need separate sections. Just kind of put the subsections together.
So we got a do and a do not on the right of way, and then a do and a do not on the, non-right of way, or everywhere, I guess you could say. And then, but do you still want it like A through
Yeah,
T, or
Yes.
do you want 4 separate subcategories?
Just the A through T is fine. Just kind of put them in the same area with the other ones. Isn't that right,
like
John?
do all the
Okay.
yes, all
Yeah.
the do's and then all the nots.
Just move it around a little bit, Chris.
He has it. Chris, get down there.
Okay, anything else on section 3?
No.
Okay, moving on to section 4, penalties. So it shall be unlawful for any person or entity to violate any of the provisions of this ordinance. Any person or entity found guilty of violating any provision of this ordinance shall, upon conviction for such violation, be punished by a fine in a minimum amount of $100, not to exceed a maximum amount of $500. And Fred, what do you want about the revocations?
Well, it lists a whole bunch of things that they cleaned up and all. They list a bunch of things they got to do before they leave. And I would like for it to say that if those items, and you can go back and state section, if those items in section, whatever it is, are not adhered to, it could result in the revocation of your license. We're not trying to send them to jail or nothing, that just take the license from them.
Can I?
Councilman,
Wait a minute, let's hear from Flo and then Chris on that.
so the food trucks are required to have a license under chapter 34, which is the license code. And under the license code, there's a section that says that any business that doesn't comply with all applicable federal, state, and city laws is subject to having their license revoked. So
Okay.
I think that concern is handled under the license code.
I'm all right.
Okay.
Okay, Flo.
He's all right.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay, anything else in section 4?
Yes. Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
Further in speaking with Flo, in order for them to be able to issue a municipal offense ticket and then have the option of the offender just coming in and paying their fine and not going to court, we need to make it a fixed amount instead of the between 100 and 500. So whatever that amount is can be whatever y'all want. I would point out that, you know, when you get one of these tickets, any kind of ticket, you know, not just this, whatever the fine is, you need to tack on about $200 and something in court costs that's going to be on there. And the potential extreme aggravation of going to sit in court all day. So, you know, it doesn't, and a judge furthermore can reduce the fine to, you know, down to 0 if they want to. So, but it just needs to be some number, whatever y'all think.
What's littering? What is littering? Let's make it the same.
I don't know, but I can find out.
Y'all agree? Committee?
I'm not against that.
I think littering is particularly high, like around $200, but
Oh, no, let's don't do all that.
About $150. How about 150?
Good
150?
call.
150. Done.
And then need to tweak this sort of legalese here in those other 2 sections of section 4, but that's not anything really, you know, y'all would probably be worried about.
Okay.
So, Joe, before we go back to that, I want to go backwards on the fine. Fine is in lieu of having to go to court. Is that not right? When give them a ticket, let them go pay the fine. If they go to court, then all this other stuff will kick in.
Well, we got to set the amount what the judge
Well,
can go up.
We got to set the amount, what the fine is.
But it's got, I respectfully would say that the 150, you know.
But what I'm saying, I'm not that interested in them the first time going before a judge. Go downtown to pay $150. Pay your
Right.
fine. Get the code out of it. That's
Councilman,
reasonable.
Councilman, you're exactly right that the difference between having a scheduled fine and just having an open-ended fine is that with the scheduled fine, somebody can just write out a check and pay that amount and not have to bother with going to court. However,
Right.
the court costs are added on either way.
Yes. The court
Oh,
costs are
I'm
on
not-
either way.
I don't care about that. That's.
Essentially, you're,
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I think we've got a good draft ordinance. And Chris, if you would make those changes and get it out to us. And Madam Clerk, I'd like to, if we can kind of wrap this thing up, I'd like to put it on the agenda for next week. If that's okay with everybody.
It's wrapped up. Let's go.
The prior ordinance, the prior version, or maybe 2 or 3 versions ago at this point, is still, has been held over to some point. But you could adopt this new version, and then whenever that other one comes up, just drop it.
Table it.
Let's just handle it that way. We'll go ahead and get this finished and put it on the agenda and let it hold over for a week, and then vote on it then. And when the other one comes up, we just table it. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
second.
Okay, thanks very much. Good meeting.
Hold on, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Flo.
All right.